Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to who is joining from China. My name is Alessio Pettino. I'm the knowledge coordinator of the EU SME Centre in Beijing. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I welcome you to attend this webinar. Today's webinar is about food and beverage, and in particular about GIs, geographical indications. As you know, the EU and China have signed an agreement which came into force last year in March about the protection of geographical indications. And under this agreement, there are 96 EU GIs protected, and there will be many more, 175 to come in the next years. So China is the third destination of European agri-food exports and the second of EU GIs. Chinese people appreciate the safety, the quality, and authenticity of EU agri-food products. However, the awareness of Chinese people about GI, the concept of GI, remains overall pretty limited, and we will see this in detail today during the presentation. Some people are more sensitive to certain aspects of GIs, using with promotion, less to others, and so this webinar was organized for this purpose, basically to provide an overview of what kind of promotional activities can be done to promote the value of GI in China, what kind of messages can be used in the communication, what kind of messages are less effective, and so on. So today's webinar will be divided into, let's say, two parts. The first part, we will provide first an overview of the EU-China agreement on the protection of GI, and then we will have a general presentation from a professional who with a lot of experience in promoting GI in China. And then in the second part, we will have three specific case studies from three product categories, specifically wines, spirits, and cheese. There will be a short Q&A at the end, but of course, if in the meantime you have any questions, you are very welcome to submit in the meantime. Don't wait until the end. Before starting, I would like to spend a couple of minutes on the EU SME Centre. For those of you who don't know us, the EU SME Centre is a project funded by the European Commission. It has been around for 12 years already, and it will continue to be around for a few years. The project is run by a consortium of 5 chambers of commerce and business organizations, which you can find on the bottom of the slide. And among these, there is the China Untitled Chamber of Commerce, who is also the coordinator of the consortium. And we are co-organizing the webinar, this webinar today with them. We, of course, partner with a lot of government agencies, business organizations, both in Europe and China. And we have a physical office in Beijing, which is where we are now. Very briefly, we provide 4 main services. The first one is what we call Knowledge Center. Basically, we write reports, guidelines, case studies on specific aspects of doing business in China, certain sectors. We have an Advice Center, which is a sort of help desk that companies can use to ask us any questions, also very detailed and technical questions about any aspects, and we will have a team of experts able to respond to you. Training Center, basically what we're doing today, we organize webinars and workshops on different topics. And last, we have an advocacy platform through which we try to disseminate information about new regulations or draft for comments and so on. We do many activities here, just an overview of what we are going to do in the next weeks, but also what we have done. And in particular, we have done a few reports in the food sector, including the registration to the Chinese customs. We have prepared a set of frequently asked questions guiding you how to do these registrations, but also on e-commerce. We are going to have 2 reports soon, one about private labeling, another one about pork. Then we also have other tools like a self-diagnosis tool and some FAQs. So now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Vincenzo Raffa, who is the manager of the China Untitled Chamber of Commerce in Guangdong province, for a quick introduction.
Ciao Alessio, thank you. Thank to you and to the EU SME Centre. This is Vincenzo Raffa from the China Untitled Chamber of Commerce from Guangzhou. I will just very briefly would like to share with you who is the CSCC. We are the only business organization recognized by both the Italian government, the Ministry of Economic Development, MISE, and the People's Republic of China, Ministry of Civil Affairs, the MOCA. Very briefly, the aim of the CSEC is to boost the internationalization of Italian businesses and to promote the Made in Italy in the PRC. The CSEC was established in 1991, and currently we have 7 offices nationwide, being Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou the most important. And in each territory, we are a central partner of the so-called Italian system, together with the embassy and the local consulates, as well as other partners. The CSEC members are, at the end of 2021, over 800, and represent the business community, such as public, invested, and multinational corporations, small and medium enterprises, and service companies. Our chamber is based on industry-specific working groups with industry peers focusing on shared topics and looking for common solutions. You can see here in this slide all the 12 working groups currently activated in the chamber. And I really wish to thank the Food and Beverage Working Group for helping promoting this seminar. The CSEC offers a variety of services to SMEs and corporations, such as business context, business and market analysis, media and communication consultancy for the local market, and consultancy service overall for companies that are interested in the Chinese market. So just please visit us to know more at www.cameraitachina.com and follow us on WeChat, LinkedIn, and other social media. Thank you to Alessio, to the USME Center, and wish you all a good, informative seminar.
Thank you, Vincenzo. So now I would move into the first speaker. Actually, before that, I would like to remind all the participants that if you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A section, not in the chat. Of course, you're welcome to use the chat, but the questions, please submit them in the Q&A section because it's easier for us to track them. Another small reminder, this webinar is being recorded and it will be uploaded to the USME Center's YouTube channel in the next week. So now I would introduce the first speaker. We are very honored to have today with us Mr. Damien Planck, who is the Counselor for Agriculture of the EU delegation in Beijing. Damien is an agronomist engineer. He joined the European Commission in 2009, initially working in the Joint Research Center. Then he joined the DG Agriculture and Rural Development, and he worked on different tasks in different countries, ASEAN, and so on. And since 2019, September, he has been the Counselor for Agriculture at the EU delegation in Beijing. So, Damien, thank you for being with us today. The floor is yours. I have to change the slides, though. This is yours.
Thank you.
One moment, please. Okay.
Good. So good morning or good afternoon, depending on your location. So I'm the Counselor for Agriculture here in Beijing at the European Union delegation. And today I'm going to talk to you about the agreement on geographical indications between the European Union and China, so the so-called EU-China GI agreement. More specifically, I would like to highlight the benefits, the mutual benefits of this agreement, both for Europe and China. But before, and first of all, I would like to explain why we call it a landmark agreement, why we consider it so important. Actually, this agreement between Europe and China is the first trade agreement between both sides. And as of today, it's the only trade agreement between Europe and China which is in force, which is in place. So once again, we consider it as European Union a very important agreement. So I'm going to talk about the agreement. Before that, I would like to show that the previous slide. It's a bit slow, but yeah, I would like just to tell you something, which I can. Okay, so I wanted to explain that talking about the GI agreement, I will first give you an overview, the big picture about the agreement, a short reminder of the history and its key provisions. And more importantly, in the second part of my presentation, I will focus on the benefits of this agreement, again, both for Europe and China, from producers to consumers. So let's start with a very short reminder about what is a geographical indication. As you know, it's an international concept which is defined at international level at the WTO in the agreement on on intellectual property, Article 22. And actually, this international definition of GI, which you can read on the screen, is the one we are using in the EU-China GI agreement. That's also the definition valid for the agreement we are going to talk about today. So in short, a GI, a geographical indication, is a name of a product which quality is linked to its geographical origin. On the slide, I put one picture, one name of one very famous GI, Champagne, which is a quality sparkling wine coming from only one region in the world, Champagne. So GI protection confers intellectual property rights to the producers who are located in a certain geographical area, and of course who comply with the GI product specification. Just to finish this short introduction or reminder, in Europe we have more or less 3,400 European GI names which are protected, and as you can read on the slide, most of them, more than half of them, are wines, followed by food products for about 45%. So now let's start talking about the agreement itself. So there was actually a long history before getting to this agreement. It took more or less 8 years and 22 rounds of negotiations between Europe and China to reach a conclusion on this landmark agreement. We concluded the negotiations in Beijing in November 2019. So that's one of the key milestones I wanted to highlight. And we also signed finally the agreement in September 2020. So both Europe, of course, and China signed the agreement. So after more than 8 years of discussions, of negotiation, we finally got an agreement on a text. This text was published in the European Official Journal in December 2020. So that's the latest milestone. The agreement was published in December. The official name of the agreement is Agreement between the European Union and the Government of the People's Republic of China on cooperation on and protection of geographical indications. So I give the name of the title not for the sake of it, but because the two keywords of cooperation and protection are really the two, I would say, core objectives of this agreement, to work together between Europe and China on both cooperation on GIs and protection of GIs. All in all, there are 14 articles, 7 annexes, 74 pages. I'm not going to go through all of them, of course. All the details are available in the text that was published in all the European official languages. I just want on this slide to highlight a few articles and annexes which are indicated in bold. So Article 2 of the agreement relates to the GIs which are protected from day one of entry into force. Article 3 relates to the addition of GIs, so a new batch, a new series of GIs that will be protected in the agreement. Article 4 is maybe the core article. It defines the scope of protection, the high level of protections of GI names that both sides want to achieve. Article 10 is also important because there is a provision for a joint committee between Europe and China officials to monitor the implementation of the agreement. So this joint committee is in charge of monitoring the actual implementation of the agreement. Article 11 is important because it's about cooperation and promotion of the agreement and GIs. And if you are food stakeholders, which is the case for most of you, Article 3 and Annex 3 and Annex 4 are very important because that's a list of the first list of the 100 Chinese GIs and 100 European GIs, actually 96, which are protected since 1st of March 2021 on both sides, I would say. So again, if you want to read this article, this text, it's publicly available in the European Official Journal.
It's coming.
Sure, yeah, slowly but surely, so I speak slowly. now there was what we call a D-Day, the 1st of March 2021, which is the day 10 months ago where the agreement between Europe and China entered into force. As I mentioned before, the core objective of the agreement is in its Article 4. It's to provide a high level of protection against imitation, usurpation for the GI names, both from Europe and from China, which are protected by the agreement. So talking about protection of GI names, we have a first batch of 100 Chinese GI names, which are protected in Europe, and 100 European GI names, which are protected in China. Actually, as you can see on the slide, it's not anymore 100, it's 96. So the explanation is that when we negotiated the agreement, there were 28 European member states. And when the agreement entered into force, there were only 27 European member states. The UK had left the EU, and 4 UK GIs, which were in the list of 100, are not anymore European Union GIs. So that's why now we end up with 96 European GI names in this first batch of GIs protected in China. In terms of profile of the GIs, as you can read on the slide, the proportion or the categories of GI products which are protected are representative, I would say, of the GIs we protect in Europe. More than half, 56% of the 96 names are wine GIs, 16% are spirits, and 12% are cheese, which are, by the way, corresponding to the 3 case studies we are going to hear about in the second category, second part, sorry, of our workshop today. Last comment on this slide, I spoke about the first batch of GI, which are already protected since 1st of March 2021. By 1st of March 2025, so within 3 years now, there will be a second batch of 175 European GIs and 175 Chinese GIs that will be further protected in the agreement. So we start with 100, but we don't stop at 100, and more GIs will be protected on both sides. Now let's talk about the benefits of this agreement, once again, on both sides. I would start with the benefits for the producers, the farmers producing GIs. So the first benefit is, as you probably already know, a better selling price. So in Europe, we have calculated that on average, the GI producers get a double price premium if they make the effort to produce a high quality product. They get somewhat a reward with a better selling price, a double price, because the consumers are prepared to pay for such a premium price for the specific GI quality they get. But the benefits to producers, to farmers, are not limited to this better selling price. Because GI production needs by definition to be maintained in a specific area, GIs help to maintain local and traditional agricultural production in a specific area. And GIs also help to further develop some economic activities, like, for instance, agrotourism in the GI region we are talking about. So we can also claim that GIs contribute to rural development, or as we talk about it in China, to rural revitalization, which is again important both for Europe and for China. Talking now about benefits to consumers, we could say that when you buy, as a consumer, when you buy a GI product in the supermarket, you benefit from a triple guarantee. First of all, a guarantee about the origin of the product, because you know where your product is coming from. That's the definition of a geographical indication product. You benefit also from a guarantee on the quality of the product, because the GI product, by definition, needs to comply with certain quality specifications. And because the GI is protected, you also have a guarantee about the authenticity of the product, that you are buying the real product. Talking about consumers' information, consumers' awareness about GIs, it's also important to highlight the role that the GI logos are playing. So talking about GI logos, the ones who are based in Europe are aware that we have basically two GI logos. One, the PGI logo, the blue one, the other one, the PDO logo, the red one. As you know, there are some differences between both, but at the end of the day, both of them are identifying quality products, which quality is linked to their geographical origin. So these are the two European logos. I would like to highlight that we are happy to see that China, 2 years ago, in November 2019, also launched or adopted a new GI special symbol, a new Chinese GI logo, which you can see on the screen with the Great Wall of China. And what is important to highlight talking about the provision of the agreement is that, as you can read on the screen, in Article 5 of the agreement, it is foreseen that both parties may basically use, it's an option, it's not an obligation, but may use the official symbol of the other party when selling their product. So basically, if you are a European GI producer or exporter selling in China, you can use of course the European logo because it's a European GI, but you can also use the Chinese GI logo, and vice versa. A Chinese GI exporter, for instance, a Chinese GIT exporter selling a GI protected by the agreement could use the European logo when selling the product in Europe. So talking about mutual benefits, that's an important provision in the agreement. Once again, in this Article 5. For those who are not based in China, I wanted just with a few pictures to confirm that we have already some European GI products physically available on the Chinese market, including with blue or red logo. So I just show on the screen some pictures of products which are available in the supermarkets in Beijing, but my colleagues later on will tell you more about these products already available on the Chinese market today. So I talked about benefits for producers, benefits for consumers. I would like basically to add that there are also benefits for the whole food supply chain. The European Commission, about 2 years ago, commissioned a study about the economic value of European quality schemes and GIs. And basically, through this study, it was calculated, assessed, that the total annual sales value of European GIs is around 75 billion euros, out of which 22%, about 17 billion euros, are exported every year. So all in all, we can say that GIs benefit producers, GI benefit consumers, but benefit actually the whole food supply chain from producers to consumers, including the exporters. So we believe, as a European Commission, that the Europe-China GI agreement will benefit all in all European-Chinese agri-food trade. On this slide, I would just like to mention that the relations between Europe and China in agri-food are very good. Actually, we are exporting more and more European agri-food products over the last years. In 2020, the European agri-food exports to China reached a total of about 18 billion euro, which was a new record. And we also imported 5 billion euros of agri-food products from China. Again, the trade is increasing on both directions, and we believe that the EU-China GI agreement will further boost this already good agri-food trade relations between Europe and China. Before I conclude, I would like to say one word about the importance of enforcing this agreement. It took us 8 years to negotiate it. Now the agreement is in force officially since March 2021. It's important. It is actually in practice enforced by both sides because there is a risk, of usurpation of the European GI names because of the reputation, the fame of some iconic European food and drink names. Some people all over the world tend to copy them just to benefit from the positive image of the European products. So you can see some examples on the screen. They are not necessarily coming from China, but it could well be that these examples do exist also in China. So with the agreement on geographical indication between Europe and China, we aim to prevent these examples of usurpation, imitation of European GI names by fake products. And we are targeting, we are hoping that the Chinese consumers will actually be in the position to buy only the real European GI quality products and not imitation of our European products. So let me just conclude with one last slide about the next steps. What do we need to do, both in Europe and in China, for these benefits to become true? So I would like maybe to summarize these next steps with two keywords, implementation and promotion. So when I talk about implementation, I'm talking about implementation of the agreement I talked about. So this is mainly the role of the authorities, both on the European and on the Chinese side. As I mentioned, there is a joint committee, which is foreseen in the Article 10 of the agreement, which is officially in charge of monitoring the implementation of the agreement. So this joint committee has a duty in a certain way to monitor and to ensure the implementation of the agreement. And somewhat by chance, 2 days ago, last Wednesday, we had the first kickoff meeting of this joint committee. Europe was represented by the European Commission, the Directorate General for Agriculture, actually the service for which I work, and China was represented by the Ministry of Commerce at high level, Vice Minister level, and I can confirm that both sides confirmed their commitment to implement the agreement both in Europe and in China. So this kickoff meeting of the joint committee was a kind of milestone, confirming that the agreement will be implemented, and both sides agreed on a work plan to make it happen, I would say. The second keyword is promotion. So promotion is also for authorities, of course, both in Europe and China, but it's also for stakeholders from the food supply chain. So we believe that it's important to keep disseminating information, to keep promoting the GI concept, the GI benefits towards the food business, towards the consumers, and towards I would say the public at large, the civil society. So once again, it's a role for the authorities, but it's also a role for the stakeholders in the food business. So in this context, I believe the event of today, where we have both authorities and food operators, is very much welcome. It's a very good opportunity to promote the GI concept, to talk about promotion of GIs. So I would like to conclude now by thanking the European SME Centre for organizing the event, for thanking the participants for participating, of course, for listening today, but more importantly for contributing to raise awareness about GIs, both in Europe and in China, today and tomorrow. So thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Damian, for this very comprehensive presentation of the agreement. I found particularly interesting the fact that European products can also use the Chinese logo of Geographical. I personally didn't know this, and I have not seen this, I think, before. Maybe
No, I haven't.
But
But I think this is useful for promotion.
we may talk a little bit later in a Q&A session, but actually it's the only agreement where there is such a provision.
Okay.
We have European GIs protected all over the world, not all over the world, but in different countries in the world at least. And it's the only agreement where we have this kind of mutual use of logos clause.
Yeah.
Of course, it depends on the added value. It's an option. It's not mandatory. Today, to be fair, I believe that the Chinese GI logo is not that famous on the Chinese market. To be honest, I'm not convinced that today there would be much added value for European cheese, for instance, to add the Chinese GI logo in addition to the European logo, which has some added value. But you never know in the future. And on the other way, the other direction, I believe on the other side that maybe for Chinese products on the European market, there would be added value, not only to have the Chinese GI logo, but also the European logo. Anyway, that's one clause or one provision in the agreement. Let's see what the operators, what the food professionals decide to do.
Yeah, okay, very good. Thank you, Damian. So now I would introduce the second speaker today, Mr. Pablo Gracia, who is the Managing Director of Ivans Consulting. Pablo has been living in China for many years, almost 20 years, and his firm, together with his firm, they provide market intelligence, training, market entry, consulting in the food and beverage sector for European SMEs. Pablo is also a frequent speaker at our EU SME Centre events, writer of reports, a very renowned face and very renowned expert in the field. So it's a pleasure to have you today and to share your very rich experience in working with GIs. I'll put your slides on in 1 second.
Sure.
And should be there.
Great. So thank you, Alessio, for the introduction. And basically, the way the presentation, not only my presentation, the whole set is structured in a way that we're all going to get deeper in some specific aspect over the previous speaker. No? So Damien has done an introduction, described the frame, and I'm going to focus on promotion, okay? That is, what can we do to both get advantage of these GI schemes, and also, and it's the same thing, we do both things at the same time. What can we do to build it? Okay, and we're gonna divide these, this is gonna last 30 minutes or so, and we're gonna divide these in different aspects. But I always like to start with the conclusions, and then I explain how we got to this conclusion. So first idea that I have to say is, currently, the EU logos in China have some advantages. It will give you some extra, but we're far from our full potential. There is still many things that we can do. It's going to depend a lot on the product category. It's going to depend a lot if you're talking to distributors or consumers. It's going to depend a lot on the city. But although it adds value, we're far from full potential. And we have to get to that question for you. We have to get to that full potential as soon as possible. Okay, so that's the first idea. The second idea that for me is key that I will explain today is that is going to happen much faster if the Chinese also develop their GI system. If Chinese consumers know what is a GI system and trust it, then they will know that there is the Chinese GI system with a GI logo and a European GI system with a GI logo. And if you are lucky to be within the agreement, then you can put both logos and even better. But it's going to be much slower if there is only development of the European system and message on the European system, while the Chinese don't fully understand what is the GI system. Okay, this is another key idea, and this is going to affect what we do. I'll explain later. I think we can do things in this direction. We'll see the case studies later. Okay. So I think a cooperation with the Chinese GIs at different levels is going to be important. The last idea, key idea that I want to say before I get into specifics is what are we going to see today? What are we going to explain today? Now, I cannot go product by product telling you this is what I would do to promote whiskey. This is what I would do to promote cheese. For whiskey, I would do master classes and guest ships And for cheese, I will do tastings at restaurants and promotions. That's not the objective of today. How to promote specific products, we have to go case by case. What I'm going to explain today is within those activities that you're already doing, what should you change to take advantage and build on the GI schemes, okay? And then if you have a specific product, some activities will work better, some activities will work less well. We'll see some cases, some examples. We understand in the audience today, we have a bit of everything. We have the European institutions, member states, GIs, associations, and individual companies. So we'll try to cover it all, okay? First idea, we're missing a couple of slides here. Yeah.
Missing slides?
Oh, they're just misplaced.
Okay.
So first idea that I want to explain is the following. Let's not mix concepts, okay? Then there is the GI recognition and an agreement, but there is so many GIs that are not in the agreement. And even those in the agreement, I can only recommend that you register your trademarks in China. The GI, the region, the association, or the GI can do a collective trademark registration. And I recommend that you do the collective trademark registration, and companies should do the brand registration. What we cannot really say is, because there is a GI agreement of 96, I don't have to register my GI logo because there is already an agreement covering 96. We have 4,000, sorry. And many of you already been working in China for a long time. Many of you have done some kind of protection of your trademark in China, but if you haven't, you have to do it, okay? So let's separate things. Trademark registration as a collective trademark for the GIs and the companies as well, you need to register. And then there is the effort from the European Union for mutual recognitions of a growing number of them, okay? Very important, you will get the slides later, but this idea is very important. So register your collective trademark for GIs, register your specific brand. And this is what will give you protection. Long story short, protection and enforcement of rights. If you don't register your wine region, cheese region, then at trademark level, we may have some problems, okay? It's very easy, we may have some problems. And there is a procedure to do this, which would take my whole presentation. So I'm only going to mention the issue, and I'm going to refer you, for example, to other projects of the European Union, some running, some about to run, but there is programs available of the European Union, which will help you with trademark registration, specifically, okay? Which will not be me today. I just point out that you need to check this. Moving on, what are, in my view, the main opportunities for GI promotion in China? Why is this going to grow? And why is this going to be an advantage? From the industry perspective, all the distributors want products that can be differentiated, that have a value added. Value added, as you know, is not only how good my product is, that's part of the value added, but the consumer has to perceive it. If the consumer cannot perceive it, then you cannot monetize it. And if the distributor cannot monetize it, it's less inviting. So distributors want products that can be differentiated. And that is products with an easy way of being recognized as quality from the consumer. So there is an interest from the distribution to have this type of initiatives because it allows them to differentiate products. So you're going to have basically an ally there. Certainly, it's been all facilitated by government efforts. So it's all the presentation that Damien has done about the GI agreement. This is not only for the 96 plus 175. This has triggered a process in Chinese media, in the Chinese industry about GI awareness. So the government efforts go on the regulation side, yes, but they also go on the PR side, okay? And this is very important. Basically, we can count on government efforts for this to grow. The GI will also give you, and nowadays is relevant, a bigger feeling of security and guarantee for consumers. It's particularly relevant maybe now these days. which means higher value added. It ultimately is a quality steal. Now, we cannot expect the Chinese to know all our brands, right? We can expect, but it's going to take some time. But maybe we can convince them quite faster to rely on one brand that is the same for many people. That for me is what can create value much faster. You can either build all of you your own brand, or we can create, or we can rely on a brand that the Chinese say, okay, well, it's one scale up. Then each brand is its brand, each region is its region. But if it comes with this seal, this quality product, okay? This is also going to allow us to link the product to a region and a heritage. Again, makes it easier to differentiate and can create synergies with many other promotional efforts that your regions, your countries, the European Union is doing in terms of tourism, in terms of culture, and so on, okay? So additionally, when it's the time for you to get included in the agreement, you have automatic advantages that you can rely on. But if not, you have all the others. It's not that if you're not in the next list, you don't benefit from this at all, at all. You can benefit greatly. So these, in my view, are the key opportunities. And now we're gonna see what are the main challenges. And how to overcome the challenges is the promotion, is how we promote, okay? The first one, identification. Let me put it this way. You've seen the statistics, right? 50% is wines, then wines and spirits is 60-something. For me, it is a bit complicated from the Chinese perspective. It's a bit complicated to explain, look at these logos, only all my wines don't have them. They're GIs, but they don't have the logo. And my spirits don't have the logos. They're GIs, but they don't have the logos. It's a bit hard. That's a challenge. From a Chinese perspective, I can only say that's a challenge because I'm telling them this logo is quality, and they say, great. So this product does not have the logo? No, but it is part of the agreement. It is very hard. And you say, no, but this in Spain is called the O, in France it's called, that's very hard to explain for us.
I agree.
It's very hard to explain in China. It's very hard to explain in China. So that's a challenge. From a Chinese perspective, if tomorrow I'm told that all the wines have to put the logos in their bottles, it will make promotion so much easier in China. And not only in China, at least in all Asia. For other markets, I don't know. Second thing that we need to overcome, which is happening, the lack of awareness of the GI system. Okay, many Chinese don't really know what is a GI system. I'm not saying the European GI system. I'm saying if you tell many Chinese, this is the logo for the Chinese GI system, they would say, I don't know what's a GI system. I don't really know what we're talking about. And the logo is more and more seen around. It's not the most popular logo, I admit to that, but it's gaining momentum, but we're still not there. So there is this lack of awareness. This is what I was saying. The more this Chinese system develops, the more we can build on top of it. Otherwise, if we need to pay for the development of the system in the whole of China, as you can imagine, it's going to take many, many years. If the Chinese develop their own, we piggyback on the effort or we cooperate, okay? In some cases, it depends. It may be a challenge that the Chinese may have limited knowledge about some European regions and traditions. So I put it also, if you say there was something on the opportunity saying this connects to heritage, it all depends how we play it here, okay? We can make it a strength out of the heritage, or it can be a challenge. It all depends how we tell the story. Our storytelling in China is going to be extremely important. Furthermore, there is a concentration. 4 and 5 could be explained, put together. For a number of reasons, some of them are because to export some products, you need a protocol. Some of them is because GIs concentrate in a few products. Partially also because the consumers for some products, maybe not so much wine, but certain types of cheese, maybe in specific regions, we have certain concentration in product categories, in certain channels, in certain cities. This is a limitation, okay? Meaning it would be great if we could expand it, and this could be done. This is when, let's say, normal promotion comes into play, all right? But right at the moment, there is a limitation. It also will be great if in Europe we will have also more variety. No? The list of GIs is growing. It will be great. It will be good for the system and good for Europe exporting to China. If we get more and more products, and we get more and more products of different product categories, okay? Less of a concentration. So these are the challenges. How can we overcome these challenges? Doing promotion and doing certain efforts. So what is being done? What can we do? Is coming?
It's here already, but not there.
All right.
Okay, nice.
So I'm going to explain this at 4 levels. It's not that each level does a different thing. All the levels do the same, which is the following. Everything we do, we connect it to the GI scheme. Okay, so we are not going to say my region, my wine region, my cheese region is very good. Just you can say that, but if you just do say that, it's very hard for the Chinese to get the message. Now, if you say my region belongs to the European scheme, which is more and more recognizable in China due to the 4 layers of promotion, and within this scheme, there is my region. This is what I really propose. Even for wines that you don't have the logo, I would say that every time we use the logos every time, because it's what the Chinese can recognize. A logo is as good as the ability of the consumers to recognize it. Doesn't matter if it's your own GI or a generic GI system, their consumers have to recognize it. This is possible with the European logo. It's much harder with your own logo. But if you put them all together, it's going to be easier for both the EU and for your GI. So 4 levels of promotion here. EU has their job to do. Again, it's about promoting the EU scheme and connecting it to the region, to the GIs and the companies. Effort, but there is things that are mostly done by the European Union. Then the country level can do also something. Then we're going to see industry level, and that's when we have 3 case studies today. And then company level. Okay, so for example, what do I mean by the EU? What can the EU do? Well, I'm going to give you 3 specific examples of things that are happening right now. Okay, basically the objective of the EU is to create awareness of the EU quality schemes. The EU can push many GIs, but EU have to try to promote them all equally. So EU is about the quality scheme. It's about the Chinese understanding the 2 logos, okay? So for this matter, different tools that the European Union puts there. First, you have, and it's now open actually, founding programs, okay? The European Union has founding programs to promote European food outside the European Union and within the internal market, which actually cover, has that changed, Alessia? Which actually,
it has, yes.
Yeah, which actually cover the whole wall, and they have different categories and budget lines. And as you can see, this is taken from REA, which used to be CHAFEA and now it's called REA, Research Executive Agency. This is taken from their website, and this program is now open, and submissions are in April. Quite interesting, 185 million euros for promotion of agricultural products, and there is for many different divisions. Okay, there's a budget for organic, there is a budget, but quality schemes are a key aspect. Okay, so European Union is putting forward a lot of budget for helping you promote in markets such as China. I suggest you have a look at it. We've cooperated with these programs and work with them. They're really beneficial, okay? So there is funding to be applied from the different institutions that can actually apply for this funding, but there is funding and it's open right now and it's the perfect moment to check it. If you have any questions, please let us know. There is an info day coming up. I don't know, I think it's next week. There's an info day from this agency. If you want to understand how these programs work, just join the info day. You'll find it if you search on the internet. You'll find it really easy. So there is funding from the European Union. There is also a communication campaign. There is also a communication campaign running right now called Colors by Europe. It does many things. It's not only about GIs, but this last extension of this campaign is a key objective is to promote GIs in China. Okay, it's not that the campaign didn't do it before, but now much more so. And there is a number of activities. This has been happening over China. And there is a number of activities specific for GIs. And then on any activity, there is a space for GIs. But there is some activities specific for GIs. We've done, we did in Beijing, an exhibition with the campaign has done conferences in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Chengdu, coming next in Luzhou in the springtime, where the campaign introduces food added quality schemes and introduces this to the industry, to government officials, get the Chinese involved, present the products, and of course, let them taste the products, because this is about food. So you need to taste the products. So the European Union is doing efforts in this direction, and we can strongly benefit from that. We really can get in this momentum about GI that the European Union and the Chinese government are pushing for, all right? So this is basically the objective of the European Union. Now, and this is the work that the European Union is doing. The agreements, the budget, which includes this potential financing, and the campaign, all right? And you can check these, there is a catalog, you can check these. This is Chinese social media, but if you have WeChat, there is a section just for GI on the campaign media, which explains everything to the Chinese with games and makes it very interactive, so it's working pretty well. At country level, maybe the slides are coming a bit slower, but at country level, maybe the role is a bit less clear, but I found it to be also extremely important, okay? The thing of country level is you can also benefit greatly at country level. Well, sorry. I put here this slide, which basically wanted to give you one example. I mentioned at the very beginning, this is going a bit slow, so I pass. Fine. So I mentioned on my presentation that I believe both two things. The Chinese is gaining momentum on GIs, also for Chinese GIs, and that cooperation is relevant, okay? And if you want to see an example, JD just recently got a pavilion on products that are from GIs, Chinese GIs, or specific regions. Just to give you an example of that this is happening. This is not theoretical knowledge that some people are putting in a room on paper and nothing will happen. This has happened. There's also cooperation with the European Union, giving some space to encourage cooperation between Europe and China on GI promotions. There is another platform in Beijing, Chumbo, also working hard to get more GIs. The GI concept is gaining momentum, okay? Not just we are working on it. The Chinese also want to develop it for their own good, for the same reasons that Damien explained before, for all the advantages, all the reassurances that the GI concept provides, okay? And I think we should work with them as much as possible. At a company level, at GI level, there's GIs that could be complementary and maybe a good cross promotion. The European GI and the Chinese GI could do promotions together. It could probably help both of them. At country level, it may be less clear of the three, but we've seen a number of examples. We've seen countries that when they make a pavilion, they create an area for GIs. So they have the national pavilion and an area for GIs. There is countries that only accept the products for some events if they are GIs, as a way of ensuring quality, for example. There is educational activities, many educational activities for GIs coming from the countries. What I would suggest the countries is, again, this takes very long to build in China. Get to use the EU logos. Actually, the EU is working on it. The media is reporting about it. Get to use the Chinese logo, the EU logos, because if we all try to put a different logo in every event, for the Chinese, it's going to be confusing. So we have the EU scheme, and under that, then we have the specific GI. That's for sure my recommendation at country level as well, okay? And there is sections we're going to give you a case study for social media for food and wines in Spain, but there are many others where they have these sections, where they have the GIs very well explained and highlighted, okay? But remember, at country level, I can only advise put the European logos on top. Otherwise, the Chinese are going to take forever to get to understand what's a GI. I'm going to move from the country level to the GI level. Okay, we're a GI. What could we do to, I don't know, Alessio, where are we at the moment?
Country level foods and wines from Spain.
Okay,
So
we're
the same side,
the
yes.
same. So we're too fast because maybe I'm talking.
Trade fairs, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Picture.
So at GI level, this is extremely important. Okay, at GI level, just giving you pictures and examples, but it's all explained. At GI level is the most important. What I normally see at the industry level, at GI level, is you put your GI logo, which is perfect. Obviously, what are you going to do? I'm not saying you don't do that, but again, do all of you individually want to educate all the Chinese about what is a GI? Do you really, how many years do you believe that this is going to take? Some of you may say, well, my GI is well known. We've done many events in Beijing and Shanghai. The clients recognize what is my GI. Maybe, but maybe they will recognize even more and outside Beijing and Shanghai if you would link this to the European logo. So by pushing the European logos, we're developing the system in China. And even if you cooperate with the Chinese even better, we're developing the GI concept and we're developing the GI, European GI quality scheme. And under that, then comes your GI. And if you do a lot of promotion, of course, your GI will be recognized over other GIs and you deserve it. But you're helping yourselves expanding across China and not limited to specific cities, specific areas, specific target markets. And the proof is you check your exports evolution and they grow slow. Or when they grow, so you building brand is a very slow process. You can actually be supported by the European concept. And you know, if you've been exporting to China, you know very well what I'm talking about. You do promotions, you grow, you recognize. It's not that you grow 50% sales every year. I wish that would be the case. It goes slow. So take advantage of this. This can take you many other places in China. Because the slides pass a bit slow, so I'm explaining the things a bit faster that you can read them, but then you will have the slides. Just stay with me, and you will basically get all the ideas. I want to explain one change. I'm moving towards the end of my presentation, but if we've been in presentations before, which is probably the case for some of you, you may remember that I was saying, listen, the average Chinese consumer, most of the Chinese consumers, even, I mean, those that may buy from time to time imported European products, not just saying any people in the middle of the rural areas, when they choose most of the products, they do a very simple analysis: origin, price, and image. So when they go there and they want to buy wine or chocolate or cookies, they do very simple analysis: origin, price, and image. If the wine is from center country, let's assume it's good. If the image is good and the origin is good, then the price will be accordingly. If the origin of the product is not very well known, you'll have to work very hard on the image to increase your price. Basically, what I see happening, and you can speed up the process, is to introduce a fourth element, which is all advantages for strong countries and less strong countries. Instead of exporting food to China, for well-known GIs and not so well-known GIs, which is introducing a fourth pillar, which is the GI scheme. So when a Chinese consumer goes to buy the product, may consider the origin, the price, the image, but if they recognize the logo, that automatically is one more element to add to the decision. It's a quality brand. The EU GI scheme is recognized and therefore they buy. That would be, and that is possibly a major element for success because other countries don't have it. So other countries cannot have this quality scheme. And over this, of course, you can build the image of your specific GI, okay? This is possible, this is happening, not as fast as we would like to, but things are changing and you can contribute and benefit to this situation, all right? Okay, coming to the end of my presentation then, just want to get the last ideas. That's my last slide there, no?
Quality and origin to
Yeah, well, it's what I had explained.
No.
So basically coming to the end of my presentation, let's get the key takeaways one more time. Oh, sorry, I've explained, but so that's at industry level. What can I do at company level? I was missing that. What can I do if I'm a company that I'm not doing already? How I'm going to benefit from this? And you're not going to do a new type of event. Listen, the question is the same. You can benefit from having the logo that you're seeing in your screens right now, a lot. So put it in your presentations, talk about the EU quality scheme if you already have it, particularly because all of you, probably all of you listening today, you already have it. You're already a EU GI. You're just not using it. Remember, by using it, you get the advantage and you build this momentum, okay? So you have to use it, okay? There are some cases here that we found that you can see is very obvious. They're doing a great job. Some of you are not putting any of this, therefore, you're on your own. You want to do all the effort by yourself, fine. I've been here 16 years, seeing you some succeed, others not. You want to do it on your own. It's very hard. It's very, very hard. Use this and help us build this. It's what I can propose. It's quite simple, all right? Fine, so 30 minutes already, coming to the end of my time. As you can see, there is also growing numbers with Chinese logos. The Chinese are also starting to use this logo. Still not the most well-known logo, but you get to see it a bit more, and probably you're gonna get to see it more and more and more. Their categories are a bit different from ours. I mean, they're not as strong, they're strong at vegetables and a less percentage into wines. But doesn't matter. The fact remains they're developing this concept as well, which we can all benefit from, all right? Key takeaways. Remember, you need to protect your GI and your trademark in China, okay? The agreement covers, but there is an agreement, doesn't mean you don't have to do your homework. You still have to do your homework. Remember, there is European programs and funding that you can benefit from. Remember to use the logos, you're benefiting from it, and you're helping us all build this momentum. Consider joining efforts with the Chinese. They want to promote this, you want to promote this, maybe you can find some synergies there. And that's what I can recommend, okay? Any questions? I guess we'll check them all at the very end after the rest of the speakers. Very interesting case studies today. So looking forward to checking them. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pablo, and for the great presentation. I think one very small comment. You mentioned at the beginning this China IP SME help desk, which basically is a very similar project to the EU SME Centre, but they focus exclusively on IP issues. They offer free assistance to companies if you have any questions about how to protect your IP, your trademark, or even relating to GI, you can reach out to them. We can also introduce you to them if you want, but I really invite you to look into this project, which is a great project. Another reminder, we shared in the chat of the event the link to the agreement between the EU and China. We are also going to share another link about the different logos explained. I cannot do it now because I'm showing my screen, but I will do it in a moment. For now, I think before moving to the third speaker, we take a couple of questions first, just very quickly, maybe 5 minutes, and then we move into the third speaker. I don't know, Damian, if you want to.
Yes. I saw various questions, and of course, we can come back to them later on. Maybe I just take two questions, one about the logo and one about the list of product. So first of all, about the logo, and Alessio will circulate the link to the European Commission website on geographical indications, where you will see all the detailed explanation. But we have indeed two logos in Europe, a blue one and a red one. So to make it very short, I would say that in the red logo, the quality link with the region of origin is stronger, if you want to say so, than in the blue logo. What I mean is that if you want to benefit from the red logo, all the steps in the production of the GI must take place in the region we are talking about, meaning the ingredients, the different ingredients must be produced in this region, processed, and of course the products must be made in this region. For the blue logo, it's a little bit more flexible, the quality link. Of course, production needs to take place part of the production must need to take place in the region of origin, but the ingredients may not necessarily come. All the ingredients may not necessarily come from the region of origin. So if you take, just for instance, the example of a cheese, if the milk and the cheese everything is produced in the region of origin, the cheese has the right to use the stronger red logo. If the milk comes from another region, but the cheese is made in the GI region, then you can only use the blue logo. But I would like to make it clear, both of them are quality logos corresponding to geographical indication. It's just a question of how strong the link with the region of origin is. And still about logos, the Chinese GI logo is not yet very famous, but we have to appreciate it was launched only 2 years ago, end of 2019. As Pablo already said, we start to get to really see it in China. So I believe that logos are very important because the Chinese, with their, I would say, Chinese GI logo, will start seeing this logo, will start wondering what is a GI. So the Chinese are doing their job in terms of promoting the Chinese GI logo. So let's do our job in terms of promoting the European GI logo. And the second question is about the full list of products. Is it available? So you already sent the link to the GI agreement. So you can look at the annexes, Annex 3 and Annex 4. That's the two annexes of GIs already protected. And there was a very specific question. We have 96 instead of 100 European GIs because the UK left. Are you going to replace the missing 4 ones? So the answer is yes. The full answer is yes, but we don't know when. Meaning that now we need to be serious. We need to talk to the Chinese to explain we have lost as Europe. We have lost 4 GIs. We need to replace them. The Chinese may say, okay, but the UK left the EU. It's not really our fault, let's say. So we will see, but definitely as Europe, we are going to work on it, definitely, and we are going to get it. I don't know how long it will be, but we are talking to the Chinese authorities to replace the 4 UK GIs we have lost in a certain way.
Okay. All right, thank you, Damien. Maybe we move forward now to the third presentation, which is the first part. The first case study we have will be about wines, and it's a pleasure to have with us Mr. Gianpaolo Bruno, who is a Trade Commissioner, Director of the Italian Trade Agency's Beijing office, and coordinator of Italian Trade Agency's offices in China and Mongolia. Without further ado, maybe I will just give the floor to you, and give me 1 second to share the slides, please. Thank you very much again for being with us today.
Thank you very much indeed for having me today. And I would like to join previous speakers in thanking you for organizing this very important interaction with our European participants as well as companies in order to make them aware of the situation concerning our activities in promoting GI products and high value added European products on the Chinese market. Just a quick reference for you. Last night, China Custom published the final data for 2021, and as far as agribusiness products, the total imports in 2021 were $232 billion, an increase of 28.8% with respect to the previous year. So we are talking a very important market. If we restrict the consideration only to food and beverage products, so excluding agricultural products that are not so relevant for European companies, we are talking about $105 billion with an increase of 16.7% over the previous year. Well, here I'm talking about what Italy has done in previous months in order to promote the GI products on the Chinese market, taking advantage of this important milestone of the signature of the bilateral agreement, and taking into account that over the 96 out of the 96 products envisaged by the agreement, Italy represents 26 of these 96, so it is the majority. So we are very much involved in promoting these products that represent actually the quintessential concept, if you wish, of the Italian lifestyle. We are talking about very high value added products that concern high quality production, high full control of the value chain, and particularly since we are hosts of the EU SME Centre, they entail the production. Most of them are small, medium-sized companies that deserve our full support in order to penetrate on this very complex Chinese market. Just for the record, out of these $105 billion, Italy exported, well, China imported from Italy $919 million, an increase of 37% over 2020. So it is a very prominent market, but I would like to take from Pablo's statement, it is far from potential. It is like this for all European countries and as well as Italy, of course. So my aim today is to give you just a little bit of an update of what we have done in order to promote the IG product concept and the sales, actually the practical sales of IG products in China. I don't think. Okay. First of all, we have used a multi-pronged approach, and the first pillar of this multi-pronged approach is information. So we have what we have done. We have translated into Chinese. We have produced a booklet on all the 26 Italian GI products. Of course, also the European Union has done this exercise, but for our segments, we have produced a booklet, also available on the internet, in order to spread the voice to the Chinese people, B2B and B2C actually, because also the distributors have to be acquainted of the importance of GI products, so we have distributed with a mailing process in order to create this important awareness, and in order to increase the momentum of knowledge by Chinese consumer of the high value added of GI products. In order to give you just an evidence of what we have done a promotion offline and online through some distributors, particularly in Beijing and all over China, of course, because we also have used some online platforms. We have done e-commerce promotion, and of course, my my aim is also to highlight what we have done on wine promotion, being wine the most of the 26 Italian GI products included in the agreement. So concerning the first pillar, GDO promotion, we have done a promotion with the supermarket chain Jenny Wang in Beijing. It is one of the most important supermarket chains for imported products in Beijing. It includes five stores. It included 148 GI products, 12 kinds of cheese, 4 kinds of ham, 12 kinds of sauces, and 120 kinds of wine accounted for 82% of all the products involved. Then there was vinegar, of course, cheese, and we have reached a lot of increase in sales because during the promotion, which lasted from June 19 to July 11, sales of wine increased 1,435% compared to the same period of last year, and increased almost 590% from last year average monthly sales. So it was really satisfactory on our side. Then, of course, we have done, and I see that here there is a little bit of we have what we have done with wine. We have created some information streams for all the wines included in the agreement. You can see here all the information we have provided we have provided the Chinese consumers with a special logo. I love Italian wines in order to recognize this promotion, particularly devoted to GI products. Then we have done an offline promotion in the supermarkets, creating special displays for Italian GI products, a special display for cheese, ham, sauces, and of course, particularly wine displays. I will go over, this offline promotion.
We can see it's just
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's going. Okay, all right. Then, well, of course, each product lines were identified with special tags. We have created some event team neck collar, and of course we have created some posters in order to increase knowledge of all the products under our promotional activity. Then we have of course we have created some gadgets like shopping bags, product brochures, and we have advertised all over the 5 stores the promotion in order to increase the awareness on the side of Chinese consumers about the promotion activity we were undertaking. Also in the offline promotional activity, we have created some activity theme wine bags and some gift boxes that are very important for Chinese people in order to increase their awareness. And then we also have promoted along with the supermarket chain Anyone, we have created an online shop devoted to the Italian GI production, creating a wide range of communication activities, articles, videos, and of course on the official video on WeChat video account, on Weibo, on TikTok. So we have done a wide range communication campaign to increase awareness. Then, as far as the e-commerce promotion is concerned, we have liaised with Chumbo. Chumbo.com is a highly specialized online e-commerce marketplace devoted to high-end food products, and we had promoted 28 Italian IG products, vinegar, aceto balsamico di Modena, 12 SKUs of wine, 5 SKUs of cheese, and 5 SKUs of meat products. This is the evidence of what we have done with Chumbo. We have created a claim, a bite of Italy on the platform that has reached really hundreds of thousands of followers. We are talking about high-end socioeconomic cohorts in this respect. So because we wanted to target the high-end market of the Chinese consumer demand. So this is basically, I will go very soon. I don't want to be too, so this is what we have done with Chumbo. And as far as wine promotion is concerned, which is the subject under my responsibility today, we have a program. We have engaged in a program of master classes. Unfortunately, the video here is not very clear, and we have basically this is a program of 2.5 days of master classes in order to devoted to B2B, basically distributors, media, wine lovers, and so on and so forth, in order to let them understand the organoleptic characteristic of Italian GI wines and why are they famous, and also in order to create the link with the territories, so with the territories producing this kind of products. We have done this promotion actually in the last few years in 17 cities for 33 sessions of master classes taught by Chinese experts of Italian wines. We have we have trained 1,300 wine promoters and reached over to 40 million final consumers. We have talked about plus 60 brands of wine, plus 50 grapes, and of course spread all over the Italian regions. Then we have engaged in multiple platform promotion for Italian wines. In total, we have involved 21 platforms internet sites, of course, the major social networks in China. We have produced a long video and a short video for Italian wine, for Italian wines. We have created an Italian wine vocabulary, an Italian wine classification, Italian wine history, and we have talked about grapes and regions, because we really think that training knowledge is the first key in order to be successful on Chinese marketplace. Then we have created some gamification, as it is very common here in China. In order to increase the number of your followers, we have created some games online with prizes, actually reminding people the name of Italian wine products, so they can remember. Hopefully they can remember when they buy them. Then, sorry, I will go.
Sure, sorry.
We have produced, we have done a lot of video production with, in collaboration with Italian wine experts, and we have created this format, Italian wine expert talks, on major media in China. Then we have also liaised with some cocktail bars, because we wanted to show that Italian wine could be used in cocktails, widely used here and widely consumed here in China. And also we have created some pairing with Italian GI wines and Chinese food. We strongly believe that one of the key aspects in order to increase the awareness of Chinese about foreign wines, it is to match wines with the 8 big gastronomic traditions in China, showing them that all the wines, all GI wines are the perfect match for their traditional cuisine. And then we have engaged in a media buy activity that entailed 13 cities with 42 publications about wines. Having said this, we also worked with professional and lifestyle KOLs in order to promote Italian wines with both B2B and a B2C approach. With the B2B, we have cooperated with some of the main wine platforms in China. In B2C terms, so we have hired some very famous KOL in order to increase the followers and the lovers of Italian wine. Then we have created some WeChat communities, posting articles in very frequent timing, and we have covered more than 2,000 wine professionals in this way. So thank you very much. This was just a snapshot of what we have done. Of course, as the other speakers were saying, we have to continue with this activity, because one of the key aspects of success on Chinese market is perseverance. Perseverance, information, creating awareness, training, communication, working with distribution channels, working with e-commerce marketplace, with KOLs, and have a long-term approach that hopefully will pay dividends due to the fact that we are promoting high-quality products from Europe. Thank you very much indeed for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno, for this excellent presentation of your very massive promotion. I would say no wonder that the Italian wines are growing a lot in China. You want to display the video or?
Yes, we have produced two videos, one long video and one short video. With your patience, I will hear the short one in order for you to see what we have done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now I would give the floor to the second case study, Mr. Conor O'Sullivan, who is the China manager of the Borbia, which is the Irish food board. Conor has been living in China for a decade, and he also is very active in promoting Irish whiskey and Irish cream. So Conor, without further ado, I will give the floor to you. And thank you very much for being with us today. By the way, yeah, please, sorry.
Thanks very much. I'm just going to screen this. Excuse me for a second. Where's it gone? Let me know if you can see it. Can you see okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, well, firstly, thank you very much to the EU SME Centre for organising today's session and for inviting me to share, I suppose, our experience so far for the GI spirits that we have protected in China under the agreement. Just to briefly introduce who I am and who Borbia are. Borbia is the Irish food, the Irish government agency that's responsible for the promotion of Irish food and drink all over the world. So we have an office in China, based in Shanghai, and that looks after the whole Greater China region. And we will help promote the exports, I would say, in three main ways. We would help connect Irish suppliers with potential customers in China. We would help, supply, let's say, market insights or consumer trends or trade developments that would help inform the strategies of the brands that do export to China. And finally, we would promote Irish food, or as a concept, I suppose, in the brand of Ireland in China. And as subsectors, we would, promote, let's say, Irish whiskey as a subcategory and the unique advantages of that as well. So that's kind of our role within our industry. So on to what we have protected under the agreement. There's actually two Irish spirits that are protected. The first is Irish whiskey, and I'm sure you all know what whiskey is, so I won't go into the detail, but just to note that actually, in a way, this is three protections, because there's three variants of the whiskey that are protected. So you've got pot still, which is a very unique production method in Ireland, which mixes malted and unmalted barley, in addition to malted Irish whiskey and grain Irish whiskey as well. So there's three variants that are protected under the scheme, and they all have different production methods and different, let's say, proportions of the ingredients that are in them. And then technically there's a fourth, because any of those three can be blended for a blended variant of Irish whiskey as well. So that's what we have protected. And I suppose the thing that unites them all is that kind of the bottom left there. So they're produced, matured entirely in Ireland. So they can't be, the cask can't be exported elsewhere and finished, let's say, somewhere else. They have a minimum alcohol content of 40%. And they have to be matured in wooden casks for at least 3 years. But unlike some other countries, we don't restrict the wood that's used. So we can use other variants of wood, which allows for creation of different flavors. And also we permit the use of seasoned casks where some other regions might not. And that means that we can mix, with different flavors. So former sherry casks, former rum casks, and so on, to get different flavor profiles. And also, generally speaking, Irish whiskey would be known in the context of other whiskies, Ireland's Irish whiskey would stand out as being quite easy to drink, quite smooth, quite light. So, those differences are understood and they're protected under the GI scheme. The other product we have that is protected is Irish cream, and that's a spirit drink that's blended from an alcohol base that's sweetened and contains whiskey, blended with fresh cream from dairy cows. So again, kind of the characteristics of this product is that there must be at least 12% milk fat. So, and again, that cream must be sourced from Irish cows raised in Ireland. Minimum alcohol content of 15%, minimum of which must be 1% of the drink must be Irish whiskey as well. And there's minimum sugar content. 2 production methods that are allowed under the PGI. And what's interesting about the difference between the two, I think, is that, whiskey in itself is kind of a category, and, there's Scotch and there's bourbon and there's Irish whiskey, and they're all kind of appreciated brands, whereas Irish cream is very linked to the origin. Cream liqueur, other than what's available in Ireland, is very small, and we would have a very dominant share of the cream liqueur market. And just if anyone's doubting the value of a PGI, I'd like to compare Irish cream with Irish coffee, because essentially they're both spirit drinks blended with whiskey and cream. One of them is protected, and it's allowed us to create brands, create export value, and deliver returns back to not just Irish whiskey producers and Irish drinks producers, but also to dairy farmers as well. And the alternative is Irish coffee, which is completely unprotected, and at this point is basically a recipe. So even though the Irish name is used, there's no restriction on what kind of cream is used, what kind of whiskey is used. So there's no protection there, no brand can be created. So that's fundamentally the value of the PGI, and having it for cream has allowed us to protect that in this case. So we're big advocates for the PGIs first and foremost. I think it's important to get the context of where we are, let's say, in the journey of these two products in China. And I would say it's a very early stage at the moment. The total value of drinks exports from Ireland to China is about 12 million euros last year. Cream liqueur and whiskey make up the vast majority of that 12 million. But in the global context, there's less than 1% of all of our drinks exports, to going to China at the moment. So it's still a very small market for us, but one where we have seen very significant growth in the last 3 years, and particularly in the years since the PGI agreement was announced, if not signed. So going back as far as 2019. We've seen very strong growth in particularly whiskey over that period. Now, when we set out to position or I suppose understand or decide where we would focus our efforts in the market, we did do lots of interviews with bartenders and importers and consumers to understand kind of what, let's say, what factors came into their decision and the ranking of those factors when they were choosing whiskies. So perhaps unsurprisingly, first and foremost, most important factor is, of course, the brand, the individual brand. So a well-known brand will always be more popular than one that's unknown, obviously. But interestingly, the second most important is the country of origin. That really resonates with buyers, and I suppose the link there with PGIs is particularly strong. So already the whiskey category is known. There's an understanding that there are different production methods around the world, and that having them protected is very strong for us because it links very clearly with what consumers want. Beyond that, aging. So, for example, a 12-year whiskey would be considered more valuable than an 8-year, regardless of the actual taste of it. And again, single malt would be considered more premium than any other variant of whiskey in China at the moment. And maybe then once you can, if you had a similar, let's say a 12-year-old single malt from Japan, then maybe flavor would be the deciding factor between those two. But I think that, let's say, that ranking makes sense in the context of China. There's a big gifting side to the market. There's also a big kind of, let's say, a little bit of showing off when it comes to drinking alcohol. So this tiering seems to make sense. But the one I want to draw attention to is just at the bottom there, other. So this is kind of a catch-all, but what we're referring to is essentially, let's say, awards or accreditations that the drink might have. What's interesting here in the context of PGI is that inherently, PGI protects the country of origin for us. So Irish whiskey as a category is protected, or Irish cream as a category is protected. But let's say the explicit logo itself is not a strong consideration for the category at the moment. So, you know, consumers aren't looking for the logo on the bottle, but they are looking for the protection that it offers in the sense that the country of origin. So there's almost a conflict between the value that the PGI actually provides and the recognition of the logo itself, let's say, or the scheme itself. And that difference of understanding is something that's come through so far in the context of the whiskey market in particular. So how we've been promoting, I just again clarify our role really here at the moment. Our priority is on strengthening the country level brand, Irish whiskey and Irish cream, and they're the two PGI protected terms. And because we're still in the early days of the growth of these two categories in China, we're very much focused on, let's say, the routes to market, the supply chain into the market, getting the importers for new brands that are looking to enter, getting the distribution into, let's say, the right retailers or the right whiskey bars and so on. And then also bartenders to raise awareness. So very much a B2B focus right now. Consumer promotion, we're doing a little bit, but it's definitely secondary to that B2B focus for us. And, you know, we will maybe do more consumer promotion in a couple of years' time once let's say the routes to market for the brands are more established and we have more listings for the two products. But right now, the priority is definitely on the trade side. So I would say, in terms of promotion, we really started properly with significant levels of investment actually last year, and that coincides with the PGI signing and the PGI let's say agreement coming into effect. What we've been doing over the last year, it's quite a few trade shows. So between whiskey focused trade shows or let's say drinks focused trade shows around China, but also participating in the more, let's say, government-led ones, so the likes of CIIE or the Hainan Consumer Products Expo. We've had these two drinks feature prominently in both of those. The one thing we found that the GI has benefited from so far, particularly at the CIE or the Hainan shows, is that in terms of media engagement, the government, you know, the Chinese government is looking to showcase these types of products as well because of the agreement and coming into effect. So we've been able to get extra media exposure at those events that we wouldn't have been able to get otherwise, and extra prominence, I would say, just from the fact that these two products are PGI. However, trade fairs, you can't do too much detail, to be honest, because people come and go quite quickly. You don't have much of an opportunity to present in depth. So they're not great for explaining the GI system. So that's what trade seminars are about. So we've been doing a number of these as well in China. So most recently in December. And this would be where we share more of the detail around how the product is produced, you know, what GI means, you know, what are the, let's say, the unique characteristics of Irish whiskey and Irish cream. And then obviously we give the brands that are active in the market the chance to give samples out to people as well. So they're very effective events for us. And I think when it comes to market education, trade seminars are a big one for, let's say, the importers and distributors that are out there. The other thing we've been doing a lot of this year, and we'll be doing more of in 2022, is masterclasses. So I think Pablo mentioned these earlier. These are basically bartender focused events. And what we do, these are quite intensive. You know, you'd sit down for an afternoon and go through in detail, again, how things are produced, the brands that are available. We'll showcase, you know, in this example, again, last month, we had 5 different brands giving samples, and we were going through the whole, you know, tasting profiles and, you know, what's unique about each of the brands and how they're produced. And then we had our master, let's say our master bartender do a class then on like how these different types of products can be used in cocktails, for example. So training as well as part of that. And that's a big one for us in terms of trade education, and particularly when it comes to the details of GI. I think that's a very effective platform for the spirits industry to go through, because you have that level, you have that opportunity to present that level of detail. And the other thing we've been doing a lot of is media engagement, so particularly digital media in China. So working with influencers, working with trade media accounts for kind of long form articles, but all shared through WeChat in particular. That's where we've been doing a lot of our focus. And then again, this is opportunity for us to tell the story of Irish whiskey, Irish cream liqueur, and go into the details. Very effective. The final type of promotion we've been doing, this one is consumer focused, and these are kind of food pairing events. So, we participate with different venues, whether they be bars or restaurants, and link Irish cream or Irish whiskey with other food from Ireland. So in this case, oysters. We're creating a new occasion in one sense, but basically encouraging new consumers to try both of these products. To be honest, I would say that's not a great platform for GI, because it's more about sampling than it is about introducing the whole story of the brands, let's say. But another thing we've been doing. So just to sum up, I think GI has been in effect for essentially a year now at this point, and just to kind of go through our observations from the market and some feedback we've been getting from the distributors as well. First and foremost, I would say that having the GI protection for both Irish whiskey and Irish cream 100% encourages investment from ourselves as let's say the Irish Food Agency. We're more confident about about promoting, especially these lesser known. Irish cream is very much quite a unique product to Ireland. So having that protection to know that if we do lift the profile of that category, it's not going to be imitated. That's a big thing for us. It's also a big thing for the brands and also for the importers as well, to know that if they co-invest in a brand, or I suppose in a category that's relatively unknown, that category won't be, let's say, stolen away by someone who's just imitating. Also, having the certification of the status of GI is a strong, let's say, endorsement. An endorsement is something that importers are often looking for. It's a strong endorsement of the uniqueness and the authenticity of the products, and that's very strong for lesser known brands to have the recognition from the European level to say, oh, there is something different here, and it's worth paying attention to. That supports premium, and obviously it helps us build trust with consumers and trade. The third thing I would just kind of reflect on so far is certainly the level of Chinese government interest in promoting the GI agreement and the extra opportunity for promotion that's given us, whether that's be media or GI focused events as well. I'm thinking of, there's an upcoming one in Sichuan province now. I think it's in late April or early May, which should be a big one for that. And then obviously, of course, the opportunity for collaboration across European member states to attract more attention to European products in general. GI is a big opportunity for all of us to work together a bit more closely in that respect, because we have something that clearly unites us now. And I'm looking at Gianpaolo and all the work you've been doing for the Italian or for the GIs through the Italian, and just saying, that's helping all of us as well, because you're doing fantastic work there to lift the awareness of the GI program. This is more feedback from let's say the operators we've been working with so far, and I would say first and foremost the biggest feedback we've got is that people don't really understand the GI program, and we've covered that a lot today, or obviously, and its significance and what it actually, what benefits it offers. And despite the fact that we do always mention GI at all of our events, there's still limited understanding at this point of its value. And similarly, consumers, particularly in the Irish cream and Irish whiskey categories, aren't looking for the GI logo, and unfortunately, it's not on the bottles from the brands that are producing in Ireland as well. So it's not being emphasized from the brand side either, and obviously that limiting the opportunity for us to promote the scheme. Similarly, I would argue, or certainly we've been told, that the value of the GI program increases the more well-known the category or the brand is, and obviously at this early stage for these two categories for Ireland, it's given less priority from let's say the stakeholders than just raising the awareness of the brand as a whole. So there's a challenge there for us as well there. And the final thing I note is that although GI offers significant protection in terms of preventing imitation, that's not the only concern that our importers have. Obviously, particularly in the spirits category, you know, the grey imports, so legitimate product bought somewhere else in the world and brought in through grey channels, has an impact on the security and the stability of business, for example, in pricing strategies, and also fakes. You know, anything could be in a bottle of Irish whiskey or Irish cream, you know, if it's been faked. And obviously, you know, the GI protection is limited in what it can do there in that sense. So these are concerns that importers still have, and you know, there's only so much that the GI scheme, I suppose, can offer in terms of security there. So that's a summary really of our experience so far. It's not quite as, I suppose, we have perhaps more limited number of products, so we're more limited in the amount that we can focus specifically on GI promotion, like the Italians have been able to do. So I'm very impressed by that. But I would just say that early days for us, early days for the categories that we're trying to promote that are GI protected. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to kind of grow with GI, I would say, at this point. You know, certainly as the awareness of GI grows, we're very confident that the Irish whiskey and Irish cream will both benefit, particularly in the assurances of the exclusivity, the uniqueness, the quality, and the authenticity. So I'll finish there. Thanks very much for your attention, and I'd be happy to take any questions, I suppose, at the end as well, if anyone has them specifically about these two products. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Connor, for this excellent presentation. We are running slightly late, so I wouldn't do any other comments. I would go directly to the last case from Mr. Alexander McDonald, who is a business development manager. He is importing European cheese, including, of course, GI cheeses, into China for many, many years, and based in Shanghai. And he has experience with a lot of you know, very, very good GIs, Comté, Roquefort, but also Parmigiano, Manchego, and so on. So, Alexander, thank you for being with us. The floor is yours.
Hi, thank you, Alicio. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving the time to listen to what I have to say. I'd also like to thank François Blanc, the conseiller régional pour les affaires d'Agricole, who led me to this seminar workshop. Also, forgive me for the very basic slides that I've collected together. Anyone on the panel, they're very welcome to cut in and prompt me if they wish to. So, okay, so who am I? Alexander McDonald, a Brit promoting GI cheese products in China. Now that must be very confusing and distressing for you. However, I am actually half French on my mother's side. And second of all, a name like McDonald, you would think that's a big burger chain, but actually it's a Scottish clan, and they're very big whiskey drinkers as well. Now, I started getting into cheese through the Harris Fromagerie, and so been in China for many years. And now what I'm going to do is give you a very quick impression of what I've experienced over those years, especially in concern with GI products. So this basic presentation is going to explain to you who are these Chinese consumers, how much do Chinese dairy consumers understand the concept of GI, are there any cultural similarities to the concept of GI in China, and what are those opportunities for dairy GI products? How will GI be useful in the future, and what aspects should manufacturers of GI products, dairy products, focus on? Then we're going to go to how best to communicate the special aspects of GI to Chinese dairy consumers. And what will those Chinese consumers focus on? So what aspects will catch their attention? Then if there's time, I'll give a basic case study regarding to different cheese products so that you have an example, as it were, and then a very quick summary. So on the first slide, you can see that who are these Chinese dairy consumers? Just to give you a basic idea of the level of the Chinese dairy consumer, I put 3 websites on the top right corner of 3 of China's biggest dairy distributors and manufacturers. You will be able to see very simply from their website and the images that they're trying to project that they're really focusing on children at the moment. So will children eat GI products when they're under 10 years old? I doubt it very much. However, that they will have the habit of eating dairy products. So maybe when they grow up, having been used to have been eating cheeses, well, just basic yogurts and so forth, then they could graduate to delicious European GI cheeses. So again, it's basically the middle income bracket. They will mainly eat processed cheese. And then the high-end income bracket, or the top percentile, will know about GI cheeses or be even inclined to eat it. So already, as you can imagine, cheese is very foreign to many consumers in China. And for them, many cheeses is processed cheese. So that is a challenge for us. But as you can see with the wine market, that at the beginning, any old wine was imported into China, but then the Chinese consumer gets educated and understands better quality, and that gives scope for European GI dairy manufacturers to grow into the market. So mainly the Chinese dairy consumer is purchasing for nutritional reasons, because in their perspective, healthy bones, their children will grow up to be big and strong. And they look to Europeans, and especially the Dutch, to see that how dairy can have a positive effect on people's health. And another thing about the Chinese dairy consumer is that they are very loyal to a brand. So if you can make them understand that the GI and brand linked together, or could be a kind of verification of a brand, then that would be beneficial to the GI manufacturers in Europe. Right, so next slide, please. Now here you can see a basic supermarket shelf of Chinese product. I mean, it's just Chinese dairy product. It's just full of plastic. So again, many people in China think cheese is processed cheese. The reason is the basic concept of first access to market. Back in the 1980s, most of the new products entering the Chinese market were processed cheeses. So you can see that with this, we have a lot of work to do to move from processed cheese onto GI product cheeses. And you can also use the UK, USA, and Australia as a perspective on how they understand GI products in the dairy sector. I mean, most of them just understand cheddar. So China would be coming from a lower base as a comparison to the UK. And many of the GI manufacturers have experience of exporting to America, UK, and Australia. So you would surely understand the extra challenge that you will have. Now, so how do they understand the concept of GI? Well, most Chinese dairy consumers only have access to cheese through a friend. So for example, maybe a European friend who they serve them a product of cheese on a cheese platter. Now do remember that when you serve cheese platters, you do not have the packaging. So when they taste it, the quality, the deliciousness, they won't be able to understand that this is actually a GI product because the packaging has already been thrown in the bin. So again, through supermarket marketing and through associations like the EU SME Centre, I mean, you should really push this hard. I also asked a good friend, Miss Liu, who is in charge of the Cremerie, which is a shop supported by the CNEIL Association, so the Milk Association of France. And she asked all her customers if they understood the concept of GI, but sadly, they didn't. So at the best, they would understand main cheese names such as a Brie or a Comté or a Parmigiano. But for them to delve deeper into that concept of GI, they've only just started to scratch the surface. It's already an achievement for many of the Chinese consumers to understand that Brie comes from France, or even Parmigiano comes from Italy. So there is a lot of work to do, but again, we can grow into the market. And generally, when Chinese dairy consumers go and buy maybe a high-end cheese, then their main evaluation decision-making process will be, is it soft? Is it hard? Is it creamy? What's the price? And that GI will not come into that decision-making process. And that's where a lot of work needs to be done. However, purchasers, supermarket purchasers, importers, they do understand that GI has an intrinsic value. So they are basically the decision makers. So they decide what goes on the shelf. So as a strategy, GI promotion should mainly focus on purchasers and decision makers so that they create the exposure of GI products to the market, and then association and big marketing campaigns can follow on once the GI products are on the shelf. Because as you can see, I mean, the supermarket shelf is mainly processed plastic cheeses. And you need to understand that that is the rules of the market. As a purchaser, it is their responsibility to stack what sells. And at the moment, it's processed cheeses. And the new trend is going to be luxury processed cheeses, which is not at all in the philosophy of GI products. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Now here, the similarities of the concept of GI and opportunities for dairy. Now here, I put a picture of crabs. Now, Yangcheng crabs is on the GI agreement list that has just been signed last year. And as you can see, on top of each little crab, there is a little circular plastic tag. Now, this in effect is a sort of passport. So because in China, they want to really focus on authenticity and where the traceability chain, they even give crabs passports. but more importantly, you can see that there is beautiful packaging. So in that sense, Chinese consumers, they're attracted by big packaging, very colorful, which lauds and promotes the quality. So you can see on that packaging, there's some certain certificates, Chinese certificates. Now, dairy manufacturers, they should copy this concept, because in that sense, the Chinese dairy consumer will understand, oh, this must be a very special, high quality product because it has very sexy, attractive, eye-catching packaging. So apart from that, what opportunities could you do apart from packaging? You could also promote the GI experience. So a big catchword in supermarkets and on the internet is lifestyle. So it's the Chinese consumer that would like to catch that lifestyle. So if you can make that the Chinese dairy consumer to bring back that GI product with maybe a GI Italian or French wine and to live that lifestyle. So that's another opportunity that should be exploited. And you may understand that many Chinese consumers have their country or adopted country of preference. So maybe they watched a TV program that they thought, oh, that's wonderful from that country, or maybe they visited the country or even studied at the country. And that's how they come to adopt a country. So they want to express their knowledge and understanding of a country, and they can, if they buy that GI product, that could be a certification that they are, let us say, an adopted French or an adopted Italian. So we can also talk about cross-promotion. So in cross-promotion, it was Mr. O'Sullivan that was saying that cross-promotion with oysters and whiskey, which sounds delicious. We, for cheese, can also do cross-promotion with wine. So you saw with the Italian Trade Agency, they did huge wine workshops and cross-promotion and all these masterclasses. Now, hopefully wine could piggyback on those wonderful promotions. And not only would that reduce costs, but it would bring a whole aspect of lifestyle to that Chinese consumer or even decision maker. And what about cross-promotion? Sorry, forgive me. What about cross-promotion with Chinese GI products? So that you'd have to cross-pollinate different styles of cooking. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here we go. So as you can see here, that with time, that there will be more and more imported dairy products. So with so many new imported dairy products coming from all around the world, it will be very, very useful for European dairy GI manufacturers to have that sense of differentiation, because the GI certificate will communicate in one badge, in one red or blue badge, the qualities, the traceabilities, and the uniqueness and the terroir of the product. So as China brings in and imports and there's more noise in the market, that GI logo will be of great help in the future to help Chinese dairy consumers decide what they will buy from the shelf. Also, as China, as the market grows in dairy, that there will be far more local production of cheese. So as you saw, the three big dairy manufacturers, Mengniu, Yili, and Bright Dairy, they will start looking into local production. So yet again, if you have on that supermarket shelf that sense of differentiation, whereas the big three will be working on marketing and price, this will put you on a level playing field. So again, to inform the Chinese consumer, the qualities and the good aspects of GI will be of a wonderful value to the importers. So, I mean, just to give you an example of how the big players are actually investing into the cheese market or the processed cheese market, is that Mengniu bought 5% of a processed cheese company, mainly focused on children, for $50 million. And it's only been started for 2 years. So you can see that the big three are really, really keen on the market and see the potential. Now, also the GI and escaping the commodity trap. I mean, imported products or even GI products will always be more expensive than regular commodity products. So it's so important to really educate purchasers, to educate decision makers, and then later down the line to educate consumers about the positive aspects of GI. Okay, now the next one. Aha! Now I really like this picture because, as you're very well aware, Louis Vuitton and DR, they are doing so well in China. And they also bring in the Chinese aspect or Chinese cultural concepts into their sales and marketing. So I think these two pictures should be an inspiration to many GI manufacturers. You can see that these are actually mooncake boxes. So during Mid-Autumn Festival, which is close to the end of October, Chinese people will gift friends and clients and business associates mooncakes. Now, of course, they would want to give a very pretty box because that would give an idea of status. It would give an idea of quality, expense, all these cases. So to teach the dairy consumer that you have these wonderful, beautiful cases, okay, no matter what you might say about too much packaging, it really hits home the marketing potential. And with so much space on those boxes, you can write the whole history of France or the terroir because there's so much space to transmit information. Just think about cereal packets back in Europe. Children, that when they eat their cereal, they love to read all the information that's on the packet. Now, since GI has so much information to transmit, you can also use the same concept. So again, gifting. So you could see how to gift GI dairy products, maybe with a bottle of wine, and especially for Chinese New Year, gift baskets are very, very popular. So again, that is an opportunity to spread the dairy GI word to the Chinese consumer, which generally has a zero knowledge of the benefits of GI. You can also, of course, social media. You saw in the wonderful ITA presentation how they've really focused on social media. Now, the only problem about social media and cheese is that cheese does not transport very well. Because if you're sending a piece of cheese from Shanghai to maybe Chengdu, that the cold chain is absolutely vital. So it's more about spreading the word than actually using it as a channel to sell. Targeted demos in the main supermarkets. Currently, in partnership, well, conjunction and support from the CNIEL, which is the French Dairy Association, we're looking to do a GI promotion in Costco. So we're putting in an application together, and we really hope to really put forward the concepts of GI and use that platform to have face-to-face time with Chinese dairy consumers to gradually let them better understand the quality and the benefits of GI. Right, and next slide, please. Now, this slide is very interesting because the picture, it's all in Chinese, I understand, but you can tell by the pictures that on the just next to the top of the pagoda, there's the blue section, which is dairy products, where they are recommending. So who are they? It's the Chinese Nutrition Society, which is really a government association, which is recommending that every day you have 300 grams of dairy products. So if, again, dairy GI can piggyback on this national promotion, then it would actually save a lot of legwork and effort. But also this slide is also, they are encouraging pregnant women to eat more dairy products as well. So from my experience in the market, if you had a choice from 1 to 4, which is the most important concept between nutritional quality, traceability, and heritage, it would definitely be nutritional. Because, as you can see from Chinese medicine and how Chinese consumers view and understand food, they see it as a way to improve your body, how to, be more healthy. So there's a direct correlation between food and health in their philosophy, far more than in Europe. So it's a potential to exploit the fact that GI products are nutritional. They are made by traditional ways. They're not industrialized products. And since it's the traditional old way of making products, then it won't have all those nasty additives, which could be a harm to your health. So that's a real good avenue to exploit. Second of all, so traditional manufacturing. Second of all, quality. So you're a new cheese dairy consumer in China. And I mean, you look at the shelf and there's so many different cheeses. Countries, colors of packaging, sizes, names, everything. So you really, as we find out, it's always best to keep it simple. And I believe the GI logo keeps things simple. It communicates in one logo so many things. And if the Chinese dairy consumer can understand the meaning of this GI logo, it will definitely help them make that decision of what to buy in the supermarket shelf. Traceability. Now, of course, GI is all about traceability, but however, since COVID, the idea that food safety is linked with imported good has taken a real battering recently, because many imported chilled goods, there is basically a thought that COVID is being brought in on chilled or frozen goods. So I think there's some kind of PR exercise work to be done by the EU and all the associations to reassure Chinese dairy consumers that COVID is not brought on to chilled products, chilled imported products. And then, of course, there's heritage. I mean, I don't think it's probably the least important of all of the qualities of GI products. and it's for the real boffins in the Chinese consumer dairy world. I mean, it's going to be a very, very small percentage. But again, if you can share that heritage on a beautiful gift or presentation pack, then I think it would have great exposure and many people would enjoy finding out more about it. So in a way, using GI as a sense of traveling to these wonderful countries and wonderful regions. So connecting the both, so together. Right, next slide, please. So in summary, GI knowledge and exposure is very, very little for the Chinese dairy consumers. Again, you know, if they know a name of a cheese, let's say it's Brie or Manchego, they're already doing very well in the broad scheme of things. And to give an example of Brie in the Chinese market, it's that it was tinned Brie from Denmark and Germany first entered the Chinese market. And in many cases, first access has the biggest impact on how the market develops. So that means that many of the hotels automatically by default always go for tinned Danish or German Brie, whereas we all are very well aware that it's French Brie, which is the real deal, the real GI product. So you have to bring in many factors. First of all, tinned Brie is cheap, and also it has a very long shelf life. Now, if you're exporting a product or even importing in China, it is vital that you have as long as possible, a shelf life as long as possible, so that it can reach the chef, the consumers in a hotel or a restaurant in time before the expiry date. And also for things like tinned Brie, it's very easy to transport. You just put it in a container and it arrives in China. Whereas for a GI natural Brie, then to send it over by air freight, where the in many aspects, if there are transfers internationally, you cannot guarantee 100% the cold chain. So it's always better for purchasers in hotels just to take the safe bet, the easy bet, and the more easily readable, easily available product. And that tends to be something like a tinned Brie. Also, if you look at many GI products, you have to understand that many GI products will have a challenge because of microbiological standards. Now, I know many European associations have been working with the Chinese authorities on that, but many GI products are actually made from raw milk. So that could mean that many quality raw milk products won't have market access because it doesn't fit with compliance of Chinese customs. Okay, now let's talk about Comté as a case study. Now, Comté again is raw milk, however, it's a hard cheese. So if it's a hard cheese, then the microbiological levels are lower and more easy to handle than a soft cheese. Now, Comté again is actually a very, very expensive cheese. So, I mean, for many Chinese dairy consumers, it just takes it out of the equation. Because, you know, if you go to somewhere like City Super, which is a very high-end supermarket in Shanghai, to pay something like 100 RMB for 200 grams is just out of their league. However, those that do understand about Comté and have tasted it will buy it no matter how expensive the price is. And that's it, is that, again, most people who do buy Comté would have tasted it, maybe in France. And because the taste, the texture, and also the flavor profile is delicious for many Chinese people, then they will buy it, but only the very, very rich consumers. And of course, cheddar. Now, I know that the UK has left the EU. However, it's also interesting to look at the concept of cheddar. You get American cheddar, you get USA, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand cheddar. Whereas you only get Comté from the region of Jura. So, I mean, the UK needs to learn from the GI concept so that they can be more competitive against cheap American cheddar or even Australian cheddar. Now, I also saw that copies of maybe Australian or New Zealand products. Now, the reason they can do that is that they were first on the market. Australia and New Zealand identified the Chinese market far earlier than the Europe, and so that meant that they could get their product onto the shelves first. And again, as we're all aware, that Chinese dairy consumers are very loyal to a brand because they've opened it, they've tasted it, they know what it is, so they stick to it. It's a bit like people going on holiday to the same place every year. You know, they know what it is, they know what to expect, it's very safe. So I think I should finish on that, and I hope I've shared some useful information to everybody, and I wish you all the best to finding partners and exporting your GI dairy products to China. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexander, for the excellent presentation. I apologize, we are a bit late, but maybe, I don't know if we want to take maybe one question, one of the questions we have seen there, maybe one each to conclude, and then.
Oh, sure. One of the questions I got, the first one I have on my list, somebody asked about Viola, actually. About olive oils that are GI in China, how are they being promoted by the campaign? How can we interact with this? One thing about the campaigns executed by the European Union, let's say their own initiatives. Now, when they give money to somebody else to do it, on the funded projects, is about what is promoted there is the EU schemes and the EU products and the GI concept. And of course, examples are put there, but this is not a campaign for a specific brands to say, well, where is my space in this campaign? It's not a brand developing campaign. If you want to see what the campaign Course by Europe have been doing through the EU SME Centre, we will send the connections to the social media. Chinese social media is a campaign for the Chinese. We're talking about the WeChat account. We're talking about the Chinese social media. You can check it there. And then in terms of events, well, we use them as much as possible and we make case studies about them in different events, all right? So through the EU SME Centre, we will send a very brief remark of what is being done for olive oil, GI olive oil, and you can check more on the website and on the social media.
So I saw a question about controls enforcement between Europe and China. Who is going to be responsible for it? So in China, it will still be the Chinese authorities. But I repeat what I said in my presentation. There is a joint committee between Europe and China in charge of the implementation, and that's where we, as European authorities, will cooperate. We'll talk to our Chinese counterparts to make sure that the agreement is enforced and that the European GIs are actually protected and get a high level of protection on the Chinese market. So it will still be the Chinese authorities, but the European authorities will talk to them to make it happen in China. And just maybe a takeaway message I got from today, which is obvious, is that GI awareness is still very limited in China. We are aware of this, and that's we know there is confusion also about the GI logo, why it is not on the wine. So all of these challenges, limited awareness, confusion about the blue, the red logo, why not on the bottles of wine and spirits. We are well aware of this, and that's why we, European Union, we are running these promotional campaigns about GIs in Europe, which Pablo mentioned in his presentation. So once again, we know the challenges, and we are trying to address them by continuing promotion, like we did today in this seminar. So once again, thank you for organizing it, and hopefully we can repeat it in the future.
Absolutely, hopefully offline. Maybe I don't know if Connor wants to add something, one comment on any other questions answered, or also Alexander.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I see one here about travel restrictions impacting promotional activities. There's two factors there, really. There's the international travel, let's say. So if you're a supplier looking to come into China, obviously that's extremely difficult, essentially impossible at this point. A couple of reps from Ireland have done it, but it's 3 weeks quarantine every time you do. So you really have to be confident you're going to get the return from that decision. So what's from our perspective, the difficulty there has been introducing new brands. So rather than just supporting the existing brands that are in the market, actually giving a chance for new brands to, do tastings and so on. And that's something we're very consciously addressing this year, in terms of, when we do trade shows, trade seminars, leaving a space aside to have new brands available for tasting, and then perhaps collecting interest and being able to, run virtual sessions later on with people in Ireland. That's our approach to that one, but it's very difficult. The other side then is, running events in market, just ourselves. There's a degree of disruption. Like this event was supposed to be offline and it's had to move online because of very small outbreaks in China. But even so, there's a lot of continual uncertainty about whether events go ahead or not. But like, we do the best we can. We plan to do events offline. In most cases they can go ahead, but occasionally something like this happens and we have to move online. But I think we're all used to working that way now at this point, so it's not hugely impactful. But yeah. That's my view on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Connor. Alexander, one last comment if you would like to make, but someone was asking for your email address in the chat. So maybe if you, or maybe we can share it to people. You would like to add something? If not, I would then conclude this webinar here. Maybe there have been some answers which were not answered, some questions which were not answered. And of course, sorry for that. We were a bit behind time. If you have any questions at any time, not only today related to this, you can contact us anytime. Again, we have a help desk, experts working at your disposal, so reach out to us anytime. Also, if you want to know more about the promotional activities that EU funds, supports, or also at the member state level, or other EU resources like the IPR help desk for the protection of IP, you can also reach out to us, and then we will introduce you to these resources. So we will, in any case, after this, we will be uploading the recording of this webinar on YouTube. We will send an email with all the slides, the link of YouTube, and all the contact details. But if you have any other questions, let us know, because for us it's difficult sometimes to keep track of all of this. So I would end it here, and I think it was a very useful event. Hopefully there will be a new one soon, offline, hopefully. And that's it. Sorry? Okay, we can say that. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Damian, Pablo, and have a good night or day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.